no one's given a manual for living with type 1 diabetes. We get diagnosed and typically we see a doctor and we're given certain tools for managing diabetes, but there are a lot of missing links in the recipe because the recipe is never exact, and a lot of what we learn simply addresses taking care of diabetes. It doesn't address the person who has diabetes, because this is not a one-size-fits-all model. It shows up uniquely in each person. So for instance, the type 1 diabetes, how it shows up in me, Evan, today after 25 years of type 1 diabetes is going to show up differently in each person. So it's hard to have an exact formula or recipe as often expected, like this is the dose that's going to bring blood sugars down this amount, and this is the amount of insulin that we need for 20 grams of carbohydrates. It doesn't work like that. There are infinite variables at play. And there's so much more that goes into diabetes management than just giving yourself insulin or counting your carbs properly. Diabetes impacts the whole person. It impacts the body, the physiology. It impacts a person's emotions, their self-worth, and their visions for the future. I started noticing that there was more to diabetes management, especially when it came to blood sugars. I guess, 10 years into my diagnosis, I was living a much healthier life. I was practicing a lot of yoga. I was paying more attention to what I was putting into my body. And A1C, or the average of blood sugars, that test that we all take that tells us how good we are or not so good, that began to be a major goal for me. And in order to get my A1C down under 7, I did achieve it, but I was experiencing a lot of low blood sugars. And in order for me to achieve it was actually creating a lot more stress in my life. So I began to recognize that the standard of medical care, what my doctors were seeing as a good number, were not necessarily reflective of the quality of my life. I was limiting what I was eating. I was obsessing about what I was eating. I was stressed out about what I was eating. And in addition to that, I was worried about my blood glucose fluctuations to a point where I was overcorrecting, and I think that had a lot to do with the lows that I was experiencing. So when we're given the instructions for managing type 1 diabetes, that's a disease-focused strategy. It's focused solely on a number. It's not focused on the person. And this is why there is a dire need for holistic strategies for blood glucose or blood sugar management when a person lives with type 1 diabetes. It's just not enough simply to say that the numbers are where it's at. It's about living wholly and fully without limitations. We need tools and strategies to help us break the cycle of highs and lows, to support the restoration of balance, to empower us to live in relationship with diabetes, and to understand our personal constitution. Type 1 diabetes management is not a one-size-fits-all model, and neither are you. Leave your comments below. What's your story with type 1 diabetes? I want to hear from you.